I'm Dayna J. Francois, and you're listening to Stirring the Plot. Whether you're gay, hot, or doing it for the plot, this is the podcast for you. We're here and we're queer, we're gay, and we slay. And if I could talk to the church girl I used to be, I'd tell her that holiness isn't about hiding your heart. It's about finding it. It's about breaking out of every box someone else drew for you, even when those boxes came wrapped in scripture and Sunday dresses. So today's episode is about the ghosts that raised us, the guilt that followed us, and the grace we finally learned to give ourselves. Listeners, I grew up in the church with a capital C, heavy on the judgment, light on the diversity. I was originally a pastor's daughter, which basically meant that my life was a fishbowl where everyone had an opinion on what the pastor's daughter should or shouldn't be. My queerness unspoken, my questions buried deep, and Megan was right there with me on the same pews navigating her own storm. Fast forward to now, Megan and I have reconnected and we brought our whole messy histories with us. Bags full of memories, religious trauma, and the kind of laughter you only share with someone who knows exactly what those Sunday mornings felt like. I recently got to watch her marry the man of her dreams, Josiah. Shout out to you. And I couldn't help but think, despite the detours and the heartbreaks that life threw at her, she's home now on her own terms. So please welcome to the pod, Megan.
Hello.
Hey,
I'm so
girl.
excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. What the heck?
I know. It is, I feel like so many memories, but also we're like sitting across the table, two different people.
Oh, for sure. And in a way, it's kind of like a whole, is it 360 moment where we once sat across from each other on Wednesday nights type of shit. And here we are on a Wednesday night, grown and healed and everything in between, you know?
Yeah. So I'm so glad to be here and share about all the tea and all the things I've learned and just who I am and who I'm becoming.
No, I'm so excited for the listeners to get to hear a little bit of your story because holy shit, you have one of resilience and tenacity, and I'm in awe of the woman that you've become, and I'm so excited for the listeners to get the chance to get to know you. So before we jump into today's episode, I think that you should let the listeners know a little bit about yourself. So why don't you introduce yourself to the pod? That is your name, your pronouns, your sexuality, and what is up.
Yeah, my name is Megan. My pronouns are she, her. My sexuality is straight.
Ally, we're allies here.
Yeah, I am an ally. What is up with me? I feel like I've finally gotten the groove of a new job, and I just feel like I'm paving the way in education, and so I feel really excited about that. My dog Birdie just won a contest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she is in a dog calendar.
Wait, that's so funny.
I know.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Okay, little model dog.
I know. So hopefully I'll be like a dog influencer. Not me, but
does she have a page?
I should make one.
100%.
Okay, now we have it on the pod, so now I gotta do it.
There you go. That's funny. I look forward to seeing where Birdie goes.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so Megan, I'm excited to have you on the podcast. Today, we are going to talk about it all. Leaving the church, identity, culture, sex, sexuality, shame, guilt, and the messy but beautiful process of rewriting your own story. So listeners, grab your coffee, your therapy notes, or a glass of wine, and let's stir the plot with Megan. Alrighty, so Megan, I was thinking about how we both grew up at ODF, which, let's be honest, was not exactly the most diverse or open-minded space. What was that like for you? Especially knowing that you had this whole Puerto Rican side of your identity that didn't fit the perfect picture church aesthetic.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I had grown up with a lot of trauma. I didn't even grow up going to church. I grew up in a house where we loved everyone. We welcomed everyone in. And I experienced a lot of trauma, which I feel like caused me to seek safety.
For sure. Yeah.
And so I'm like, where can I find my identity? Church plays that role. Where
community.
It's a community, you know the rules of the game and you play the game and then you'll be okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, actually those rules are twisted.
Oh,
and
100%.
Don't even get me started on church politics, especially at the church we grew up in. Yeah. So I just feel like I was seeking safety and I'm like, who's gonna like me? Who's gonna accept me? Who is going to love me? And I feel like that is was really twisted in my time. But I feel like also I felt accepted there in a way.
Yeah.
And I feel like more of my trauma came from like a ministry job that I had.
Yeah.
So it is weird to compare the two, honestly.
Oh, for sure. It's like a whole different timeline, stories, almost narratives that shaped who you are today, but very, very different, different times of your life. Because the church, when we were involved at, that church specifically, like we were young, we were very like impressionable. They were molding us almost into what they thought we needed to be. And that was the biggest thing that I've taken away from my experience there. It was the way that they tried to mold these people that they deemed acceptable in their like view, and the things that I in one light look at as being beautiful memories that I hold very close and cherish them, viewing them now as an adult who sees the real truth behind them and kind of being like
Yeah,
doesn't quite sit right with me because we were so young and so impressionable, So that's definitely something that I still think about and reflect on when it comes to that time, because in that same regard, it's hard to struggle with the good memories that it did, because at the end of the day, we were just kids and we were looking for community, and for a big portion of our lives, like that community, we were family, we were best friends, like that was what we had,
Yeah, for sure. Do you remember the sex talk? It was, a Wednesday night.
Okay.
And it was like, I feel like it was in the summer. We're having fun. Pool party.
Oh.
And then it's like sex talk. And you're like, okay, cool. Yeah. I'm awkward middle schooler. Why would I? Not ready to talk about that, but sure, whatever. And then they like split us up into girls and boys. The girls just focused on what we wore, what we looked like, how we acted would draw attention. And then I feel like I asked our guy friends, and it was like, yeah, I mean, we just were told to like not look at a woman, or like it was like not the responsibility of the man.
Yeah,
it was
the woman.
The woman.
Yeah. And there was so much of that, no shade, but like they're like young life groups, the like how to be a good wife and husband, and how, at least from what I heard, my sister, she was at one point involved in those like marriage groups or whatever, and just some of the stories that she heard, and she was just like, a lot of it was these men being like, I'm a shitty guy and I'm a shitty husband, but as my wife, your responsibility is to show up and love me anyway.
Yeah.
Because God told you to.
Yes. I don't even get me started, because I remember in college, I went to a Christian college, and we had like a Bible study about submission, and I'm a strong woman.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I asked my friend, I'm like, so what would you do if you disagreed with your husband on something? Would you follow him or would you speak up? And she said, I'd follow him. And I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
You still have a voice in that marriage. Yes. And like, even in college, I like could say that.
Exactly.
And I was still within the church. And I just think it's so infuriating. Women don't have a voice and aren't even seen as a powerful leader within that relationship.
Exactly. And that's the thing too that I think was one of the biggest factors that drove a dividing wedge between me and the idea of religion, because I couldn't connect it to it being its own thing. I just connected it to the toxicity of that place and the like lifestyle that they were trying to paint, the perfect white Christian man leading perfect family type of thing. And just the narrative that they tried to craft and create, despite, like you said, being young and being like, wait a damn minute.
Yeah.
Especially just with something that I experienced. And this was me from my point of view. I experienced something very traumatizing in that space. I was a young, impressionable kid in the closet, right? And I am looking for community, I'm carrying this big secret and I don't know what to do with it. I'm hiding it because this place is telling me, don't ever speak about that,
Yeah.
And I made a connection with somebody where I felt like, I think I can tell them. I think I can tell this person. And so I told them, and it wasn't even like, I'm gay. Like, it was just like, I have these thoughts and I don't know what to do with them type of thing. And they held space for me. And I was like, oh my God, finally like seeing the light. And then something happened with this individual where it completely backfired on them with their own thoughts being aired out to the entire ministry, judging and shaming them and telling them like, you need to go to conversion therapy. We're going to tell your parents, like all this stuff. This person hasn't even become secure in who they are. They're just navigating emotions as a young person, you know? And to have all of that thrown in your face, that a queer person's like biggest nightmares when you're navigating that is to have it thrown back in your face in such a traumatic and traumatizing way when you're not ready, and it's just spread across adults, especially adult males, you know? Nasty.
Yeah.
I'm just a young person, you know? And me in the closet watching this happen in real time. Oh, I'm not telling anybody. I'm locking that secret away, shoving it down, and it will never be talked about again. Because that, I can't experience that.
Yeah.
And my heart breaks for that person at that time, and breaks for me for feeling like, one, I was like, what can I do? I feel the pain from here, but also like, I can't say anything because then it's going to turn on me type of thing. And the fact that it happened when they were building this, they were cultivating this space on like the basis of acceptance and community and holding space for safety to be vulnerable and trying to find like your most authentic self, as long as it was what they pictured.
100%.
And so that experience, seeing that when I'm, you know, a young teen, like that definitely affected me, and it affected my, I guess, journey with finding who I really was, because that definitely was just another thing that I attached to like that religious shame and that compet with navigating my sexuality, and definitely put some spanners in the works and fear that was attached, put on by the church. And so that religious trauma really does come into play when I walk hand in hand with like my sexuality and my journey with that. So experience that was crazy, you know? So, I mean, I know not at that church, but once you moved on, you had something kind of, in a way, similar. And I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing that.
Yeah. Man, I feel like I need to take a deep breath.
No,
you know, like
take a drink of wine.
Yeah. I mean, I think to start off, especially before I even share some of this, like my shame really kicks in.
Yeah.
Because at the church specifically, I feel like you're often worrying about your perception. And so it's like, oh, I'm very fearful of the perception of this podcast. And my shame is telling me, you need to keep quiet. You need to do what you have to do to be respectful and to shut it out. But I'm like, I can't keep quiet. I don't know. And like, how could I give someone in my shoes to feel like, oh, it's okay
to speak up?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're speaking your truth, and no one can shame you for that. You know?
Yeah.
It's what you carry and what you've been battling and what you learned, and you're just sharing what's on your heart. And at the end of the day, that environment that we grew up in taught us that lesson exactly. So then to turn around and say you can't do that is hypocritical, because it's like, you taught me to do that.
Yes. And it's like, you taught me to think critically, and I did. And I read the whole Bible and I studied it, and this is the conclusion I came to. Like, I just hate the idea of like people who are non-believers or don't go to the church anymore. You know, they're not to be trusted. They're not to be someone, they think on emotion. And it's like, wait, actually, I think that's farther from the truth.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just a little of my thought process. But I feel like I've never really shared this like with the world.
Out loud.
And so, I was kicked out of a church, and that really made me spiral. It made me like come down to the trenches, especially when I was trying to understand my sexuality and understand sex. I was given this message in middle school and high school, and then I was an adult. Like, I had graduated college, and I was told, like, you're not allowed to think about that, about sex. You're not allowed to discover that for yourself, and that is wrong. And I feel like there's so much to that, so I don't even know like where to get started. But I mean, I think that was a really pivotal point, and I always was questioning and was struggling, but silently.
Internal battle for sure.
And so so then this was a pivotal point for me to say, no one's going to show up for me, then I'm going to show up for myself. You know?
Hell yes. That one right there. My gosh. No, literally. And I think in a similar regard, obviously your experience is your experience and mine is mine, and they're very different, but they do have, you know, similar themes. And something that I learned and I took away from is navigating that and feeling that shame, that internal silent battle, like you said. It was like as if the church was teaching us to mute our identities unless it was palatable for other people. And I remember like being young and navigating these feelings and navigating my thoughts and feeling like I want to share it with people, but I don't know how. I don't know how to hold space for this when I'm not feeling like someone's giving me the opportunity to do that. And I think about when I was young and impressionable and how I used to pray to God to make me smaller and make me quieter and make me straighter and make me be deemed as better, you know?
Yeah.
But now I realize how much of that was just the church's way of teaching us to erase ourselves. So I want you to share your story if you feel called to. I remember you telling me it for the first time and I was speechless.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, there's two things that happened concurrently within this time, both having to do with religion, because I was working in a ministry and also I was a leader at a church. So I was like doing it all essentially, because
100%.
it was definitely well, if I just do the enough right things, then I will be right with God, you know? So yeah, I just had always been curious about sex, and because naturally, yeah, that is a natural human desire, a want. Our bodies are even just made to do that. Like I would have, you know, dates with men, or I would like go too far. And I would always feel so much shame. And it wasn't even like I felt shame in my head, but I would like tell my friends and they would be like, is that following like what God wants you to do?
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, what?
Yeah.
And anyway, so I started dating Josiah. And obviously, when you really start liking someone and dating them, that is a natural occurrence that happens, right? You feel attracted to them. You want to have sex with them. You want to explore that because you've never had before. I would have Josiah spend the night. I would go spend the night at his house.
Yeah. And reminder, you're a grown woman.
Oh.
In your own home.
Yes.
Let's remember that.
Yeah, let's all remember that. Wait, I have something to share before that. I remember talking to Josiah about how I had to sign this statement of faith. No joke. And a lot of it I disagreed with. One of them, if you got a divorce, the ministry would basically force you into counseling. The work you were going to every day that was a ministry, they would require you to go to counseling with them. And it's like, my job should not be connected to my personal life.
No, and to be like, you're getting a divorce, oh, you're gonna go to therapy to prevent that.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. And it's also like, that's none of your damn business.
No, that's none of your damn fucking business.
Yeah.
Holy shit. And just the idea of signing a contract of faith or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Or like, I couldn't sleep over at a guy's house, or a guy couldn't sleep over at my house. And it's like, that is none of your business.
Cold tea.
Don't even get me started. Anyway, so I had that in the back of my head, but I lived with a group of girls and I wanted to be honest, right? I wanted to have a streamline of communication, and I would say, hey, Josiah wants to sleep over, or we're going to Denver the next day. Can Josiah spend the night? No one would say anything. I take silence as that's okay. So Josiah spends the night. No one says anything to me at all. Silence, zero. And I would talk to my friend because she was also dating someone, and she said something about like birth control, and I was like, oh yeah, me too. And then she's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm on birth control. And it was like, oh, to like prevent like a pregnancy. And I was like, yeah, for sure. Okay. But I wasn't even having sex then. Yeah. Like I just was like, I want to be preemptive.
Yeah. And you're just naturally at that age. Like it's a radical act of feminism and self-care. And also it's just so normal, you fucking weirdos.
I know.
Respectfully.
But I didn't hear anything from anybody. None of my roommates, nothing.
That's so weird.
Radio silence.
That's so weird.
So then I get to one day, the friend that was talking about birth control, She was one of my best friends from college.
Mm-hmm.
And she had said, hey, let's get coffee. Because I was like not really at the house. I like was, you know, in and out, or I would come home late because I was dating Josiah and we're having fun dates. And then she's like, hey, want to get coffee? And you know, that fucking means,
we're gonna chat.
Yep. She sits me down, basically says, I've told the church of the things that you're doing. And I said, what am I doing? She's like, well, you're having Josiah spend the night. And I'm like, and that's it. Well, you are supposed to be a good leader. And I don't think that you're representing the church well by doing this on the side and showing up to be a leader. Like you, and there was like specifically, you know, another thing about sex. And it's like, I don't feel like you're adequate to talk about this topic right now. And it's like, oh, you get to decide that.
Yeah. Huh?
And then again, you told the church.
Yeah.
Without me knowing, without you having a conversation.
No, that's crazy.
And like, I am just like, wait, even if you are called to point out sin, right? There is a loving way to do it.
Yeah. And also, I'm sorry, but like my personal business is mine, period.
Yeah.
And it's not for you to discuss without my knowledge, without my consent,
Yes.
without me there.
Yes.
That's insane.
Yeah. And it's like, why couldn't you ask questions or be curious or like know that this is such a pivotal time in my life and have the desire to understand me? Like, why can't we celebrate curiosity?
Mm-hmm.
Because we'll shut the system down. Like, what do you expect? You
Yeah.
know? And the most fucked up thing
Mm-hmm.
is the person that she told was having sex with her boyfriend on the side. And no one knows this
But you.
but me.
Oh, air that shit out. No, I'm kidding. But
No,
like,
but, like,
hypocritical
Yes.
as fuck.
And that girl, whenever she told me, it was never, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You know, and she worked for the church.
Yeah.
She worked for them. It's like, I'm so sorry that you feel confused. Like, I'm not like so sorry. Cut that. But like, like I never, when she came to me to tell me those things and tell me that she was having sex with her boyfriend, I was compassionate. I was empathetic. I was like, you love him. And this is an act of love.
Yeah.
And you've been with him for a very long time. Like, it's understandable. And then to like have your shit together, quote unquote, and just stab me in the back.
Well, that's just insane because it's like, that is so hypocritical of you to, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to point out your sins and say that you're being, like, you're not following the rules of the church when I did the exact same thing. I'm the one to say that to you is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I would have been like, okay, Miss Girl.
Yeah.
Uno reverse.
I know. And my feelings behind it obviously have changed, but I just was like, I'm going to be the bigger person. I'm going to let them figure that out, and they're going to have to deal with that every day that they chose that, you know? And it's like, I rather lead with grace rather than like stabbing someone in the back.
Yeah.
You know what
like
I'm saying?
Vengeance,
Yes.
vendetta, and just jealousy. And
Yeah.
It's just very bizarre to me that it's like the way that they're going about it is, it's hypocritical, yes. But it's the fact that it's like, I'm going to shame you because you got caught.
Yeah.
I didn't get caught.
Yes.
I'm doing the same thing, but I didn't get caught. And that's
Yep.
where your fault is that you got caught doing it.
Yes. Yep.
And so now, as a group that's supposed to stand together type of thing, community and showing up for each other, you should stand with me in something like this. But instead, like, no, you got caught, so dusting my hands of that. And I'm gonna follow the trademark necessary steps of shaming you and like belittling you, like thinking I'm better than you only because I didn't get caught.
Yeah.
That's the only difference between you and I.
Yeah. And it's like, I was even being transparent.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't even sneaking around.
No, because there's nothing to sneak around about.
No.
I'm a grown woman.
Yes.
In a committed relationship.
Yes.
And what I do in my personal life is not your business.
Yeah.
I
know.
Oh.
And like, my other roommate was sneaking around her boy, and she is this very like, has it all together, you know, tries to have this perfect image. And it's like, she was also sneaking around, and I don't know what she was doing because that's not my business.
Yeah.
I knew that it was happening, but I wasn't like, she would deny. I even like tried to be like, yo, you do the same thing and you're talking shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just is like this political game, it feels like, of I feel this way, I'm doing this, but it's a secret. So I look like I have it all together, but I don't. But I'm going to point the finger. And I just feel like the people who point the finger, it says more about them than it says about you.
Oh, 100,000%.
Yeah. And it's like, dang, what shame are you living by if you feel like it is more important to catch me in the act?
No, literally,
you know?
that is your own journey that you need to sit. That's something you need to sit with.
Yes.
You need to work through and navigate.
Yep.
Clearly.
I know.
That's the same thing that you can also say that mirrors, like, honestly, bigotry and homophobia too, because it's like, why are you so concerned with other people's business that you have to point the finger, be hateful, be spiteful, all of the stuff that goes against everything that you stand on just to shame another individual because they're not doing what you think is the right thing? But why are you so passionate about that? Sit with that. Unpack that.
Yep. And it's like, why don't church people go to therapy?
Oh, because they could never. Because the Lord.
Because the Lord can fix.
Because the Lord, God's love. I'm by the grace of God.
Yep. And it's just like, and like, we'll pray for you. But it's like let's play a gossip game, you know? Let's talk mad shit about people. Oh, but we'll pray for them because they need to be saved by God. And it's like, damn. Like if people are just more curious, asked questions, and also did their own internal work, I just feel like, and a streamline of communication, like I feel like just go to fucking therapy, bitch.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shut the fuck up and go to therapy at the end of the day. That's the message from today's episode.
100%. Because I feel like I wouldn't be able to talk about this. And like right now, I'm obviously like airing it out and sharing my perspective of it. But
it's your truth.
But it's my truth. And I feel like I've gone to a religious trauma group and I've gone to therapy since I left the church. Like, it's not like I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs. Like, I'm finding more and more about who I am through therapy and just like learning to trust myself.
Yeah.
And trust that I can make my own decision and say, no, this is what I value. And so I'm going to make decisions off of that and not, what does this leader, this pastor, this person think of me? And then make a decision based off that, because you're always told what to do. You're always told how to do it. And then if you do not follow that formula, you're out. You're going to be talked shit about. You're not going to be invited to things. And I just don't think that's right or fair in a sense of building community.
Absolutely not. Honestly, period.
The end.
No, like, honestly, I'm speechless, like, thinking that you had to go through that, obviously. But like you said, you took that experience and you are now having that and shaping it into who you are. You know, today you're doing the work that you need to do. You're going to therapy. You're making connections in this community of people who also experience these things, which I think is, you know, beautiful in its own way, that experience their own religious trauma, and you can unpack that. And also just the fact that you're able to verbalize it, and also the fact that you're able to say, what happened to me wasn't okay, you know? Not like, oh, they were right and I should feel shameful and just carry the guilt and the shame forever now because I did something bad, and punish yourself. Because there's so many different ways that could have ended, you know, for you. Yeah. Like, your relationship could have ended because of the shame. You could have fallen into like depression because of like being exiled, all this kind of stuff that could have happened, you know, where instead you rose up from the ashes, you know, resilient. And I want to give you props for that, and you did it in such a graceful way. I'm proud of you because I've known you forever, and I saw, you know, the young version of yourself, and I just know that she would be proud of the woman you are today. Yeah. So no, thank you. I appreciate that. And it doesn't mean that I like along the way didn't have any, you know, panic attacks or like I just feel like the sense of community is gone. Does that make sense? Like, I had a place every week to go to, and
at the time, it was the best, right? I had people, we all agreed on the same thing, quote unquote, people that I loved. And I walked away from that, and then I had no one. Yeah. And I feel like people who, are in the church are like, I don't know, in a sense, they're like, oh, and look, she's all alone. She's going to figure it out. And it is lonely. It is, because I'm like, I don't go to a place where we have one thing in common. It's like I have to like make friends and find some things that we have in common. But what I've found is there's so many people out there that have gone through the same thing, or that are far more accepting, and we talk about real shit.
Yeah.
And like we are passionate about the same things, and like that more aligns with my values, is to be in a community like that.
That honestly, I feel like is kind of the perfect segue, because something that you said to me originally when we first had a discussion about this really stuck with me, is you said that leaving the church actually made you more liberal. And I feel that in my fucking bones, because once I left, I started actually seeing people, their humanity, their complexities, without all that judgment and shame and those lenses that we were taught to view everything in. What was a moment where you were like, you know what? Yeah. I'm done with this. And how did your belief shift once you weren't under the church's thumb anymore?
Man, I mean, I think there is a collection of things. I feel like the biggest one for me, this was happening in concurrent with my time with my roommates and my church. I was working for a ministry, and we were required to go to Bible study each week. And I loved that. I loved the people that were involved in it. We had a good time. But also my work was intertwined with my faith. And that was very confusing.
Of course.
And there was this person that was ahead of this program, and he would lead Bible studies, and it often became this like political agenda to convince us of something. And I, being the smart woman I am, would be like, that feels bad, weird, odd that he would say those things. And like, mind you, this man would not be in the same room as a woman. Me, a woman, would never be in the same room alone. And it's like, first of all, you're like 60. Yeah. And second of all, that just dismisses who I am because I am a woman. And what if I have the same intelligence, the same education, the same ability to do the job well, despite my gender? So there was this one time, and there was like multiple things that had come up in Bible study, but I was like, okay, whatever, I won't take that. Yeah. But one thing that came up was that this leader had a child who came out as trans, and he disowned his child, and that became the Bible study. And I was like, first of all, I don't agree. Second of all, why am I a part of this? So this happens, and I just think about it a lot, and I say, I need to speak up, and I don't have to speak up about this topic, but this is not beneficial for me to be going to this Bible study.
Of course.
And so I went to the leader and I said, I don't think that it is right for me to be joining this Bible study. I just don't feel like I'm really benefiting from it, but here's the ways that I am getting fed. That was like a church term. The ways that I'm, getting invested in my faith. And so I don't feel like this is really fruitful for me to spend time here. And he was like, basically had told me, then I don't think that you're a good leader for this. And it's like the same messaging is happening from two different people. And it's one of those like lies where it's like you hear it over and over again and you believe it about yourself.
Well, yeah.
And I feel like that was the just nail in the coffin. Like I was like, this is not for me. Even in that ministry, like the main goal was to make disciples. And it's like, so the main goal is to shove down people's throats and say at the end of the week, if they believe in God, how many people raise their hand to say they want to accept God in your heart. That's the metric that we're following.
They handed you the script and was like, recite this back to me. And whoever performs the best is the shepherd. Yeah.
And so it's just like all these things start popping in my head. And I was like, I can't be here anymore. This is not it. Yeah. I don't know if there's something better, but I can't.
There sure as hell has to be.
Yeah.
Because this cannot be the best that it is.
Yeah. Especially because I am a strong woman. I am capable. I am a strong leader. And for this ministry to tell me that my gender is based on how I'm going to be treated or if I'm going to have a leadership position. Like, that's just what the basis, I feel like, of this whole conversation was about.
From a like cis old white man telling you who you need to be.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yes.
Literally gag.
And, you know, I think that just says more about him and his relationship than it says about me. But it's always a woman's fault.
No, of course it is.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think a lot about those times when there would be like something that comes up, or how we were in these positions, even back at our old place, we were in these positions to like, if something were to come up and there needed to be a talk or something like that, as young, impressionable women, girls, honestly, girls,
Yep.
to have to sit in a room with a grown man while he tells us why our actions are ungodly. It was insane to me to like look back and think, holy, like who let that happen?
Yeah.
Who let this grown man sit in a room with a girl? I'm a child at this point. I'm a young child, and tell me your actions are ungodly because I say so. Because the script that I was handed told me to tell you that. And this is what you need to do instead. And that's crazy with the gender roles too, because I think especially like women, girls, us, we were targeted more than the boys were, because at the end of the day, it goes into that same narrative of boys will be boys. We are, you know, cultivating these leaders to becoming, you know, the next leader of the pack, while these women needed to be taught what to say, how to act. Going off of that, I feel like something that is a really important topic to talk about is the irony of how leaving the church allowed us to have more compassion, more empathy, and more authenticity. And also, just for you, basically, how did you navigate that? Reflective, looking back, being on the outside and, you know, looking back at your time after growth, after reflection, after, you know, processing all of that. You know, obviously it's religious trauma that we carry, but like processing it in a way, looking back, how do you feel?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's like two avenues. I feel like it's like when we were, you know, at a church together and like my ministry time, because I feel like those were two different things. And like, I'm curious to hear about your perspective of like when we would be, you know, at summer camp and do work crew, like what that looked like for you, because I feel like we have different experiences.
Of course, yeah.
And I like a big way that I reflected was on that experience. So I'm going to share a journal entry if I can.
No, I would love for you to do that.
At first, I like just wrote a segment I like to call Megan's Memories.
I love that.
I said I love to write. I never said I was good at it or if something should be posted on social media. Irony.
Irony. Here we are.
But here we are. I literally wrote that. I was that college girl that was trying to get boys' attention to show as a deep thinker. But besides the point, I'd like to talk about my childhood. A simple thing my mom said to me when I was scared as I was lying in bed, hello, the start of anxiety, was to think of your happy place. As an 8-year-old, for me, that was Disneyland. I've been one time.
Oh.
I was faced with the same anxiety last night and thought of my old church camp. People in my life now are like, Megan, come on, maybe not. But I'm thinking of is the place that we would do work crew. I pictured the creek beneath my toes and the grass underneath me in the meadow where you could see every star. I used to laugh my hardest with the people I loved the most. That was my safe place, where I could be the most free, where I could mess up, where I had a taste of unconditional love. I miss this place, and I don't have the same feelings towards the same God, and I feel wounded from those places where I could show up as the same Megan. But that's the secret of the past. The past is trying to grip you back and blind you of its mistakes. Show you that you have now is nowhere close to that. All I can say is I'm on my way. I'm on my way to who I'm meant to be. That might be an uphill battle, but it's worth what is to come. Maybe I'll have the same feeling once more.
Oh my gosh. Okay, first of all, I want to say, Miss, I'm not a writer, blah, blah. That, beautiful. So beautiful. And I'm looking forward to reading your memoir one day.
Yeah,
for sure.
I hope. Yeah.
No, I am, for sure. I agree with what you said about the magic that was MMR. There was something so magical about that place.
Yeah.
I never felt so at peace. Like peace settled in my bones being in that space.
Yeah.
And the memories, like you said, growing up, going to, because there's like so much religious trauma and so much that you have to work through and so much negativity that is connected to that time. But when I do think about MMR and I think about church camp and I think about the time we spent together at like work crew and, you know, junior high camp and all that stuff, I just like laugh and I smile and I feel so much joy when I think about that.
Yeah.
Because it was truly a magical place. And you felt like you left life, you know?
Yeah.
When you were there doing the games and just being with your best friends for a whole week. Like, I agree. And I loved that place. There were some things about that environment that, again, just resulted back to me being like, I feel like I'm trying, like they're trying to curate a version of me that I don't think that's who I am.
Yeah.
You know? And how do I fit the mold almost? Yeah. When most of the time when I was there, it was just to be a kid and to just have fun with my friends and to just love life. When I felt like any other time, it felt like too much to carry. But up there, I felt like weightless almost.
Yeah.
You know? Like I left all of my issues in the parking lot. And then you step onto the dirt and you walk through the woods and you're just there. You're just home. You know? And then there would be the moments obviously where you'd be reminded of reality and have to talk about it and everything like that. And that's when I had those contradicting like feelings. But the way that you captured the magic of MMR is so accurate. And I know that people who also experience that can relate. Yeah. Because holy fuck, that was, you know, it's just that ideal like summer camp vibe. Yeah. That just kind of feels like doesn't happen unless it's in the movies. But it's just shit that we experienced every summer, you know? Yeah. That I love, you know? Yes. Yeah. For sure. And even the magic of, you know, work crew for 5 weeks being up there, you know, was crazy. So young, but like I left never feeling like closer to like, you know, a group of people than I did with you guys. Yeah. Because what else did we have to do?
You're right. No phones. No phone. We like weren't allowed to have them. Yeah. And we all shared a cabin and like we would just stay up and hang out. Like I just think about high schoolers, if they're not in a sense of community like that, they don't get to experience that like vulnerability, but also like some of it was like forced vulnerability.
Some of it was forced vulnerability. And that is where the internal battle with those memories come up for me, because as much love and fondness as I do look back on that time, there are the moments when I felt, in a way, looking back, I feel a little bit like I'm not quite sure how I feel about the fact that at the end of the day, we were kids, we were young and we were impressionable. And I felt like there were sometimes certain situations where, me personally speaking from my own experience, I felt a little bit emotionally manipulated to be vulnerable. Yeah. When I hadn't even navigated these own feelings within myself. Yeah. And I know that like sometimes that is the best time, is to just speak. Yeah. Without overthinking and overanalyzing it, and without like almost rehearsing what you're going to say, because I felt like at that time a lot of things that I would say would be very curated and very rehearsed. Yeah. But in those moments I didn't have the opportunity to do that. Yeah. But also there were times when I felt like I can't leave this place until I say something that satisfies the adults in the room. And that's where the disconnect happens for me, because at the end of the day we were kids and we weren't allowed to be on our own, obviously. And there were these adults who were organizing all of this together, and I love those people and I love the experience we had with them. But there were times when I'm like, as an adult, you should have seen that we were just kids. Yeah. And we shouldn't have been forced into these situations to share something that we weren't like ready for. There'd be times we'd leave that room like having sobbed. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And that just feels like a little bit too much. Yeah. For me.
Well, it's like the intent is there, but also the like mental health counseling is not there. So it's like, here we exposed all of ourselves, but there wasn't a follow-up of how do you deal with these emotions? Yeah. How do you help with your anxiety? Because, and whether it was said or unsaid, especially in this space or especially in my ministry space, it's like, well, God can relieve you of that.
Right.
And it's like I found out later, I have OCD. I am chemically, it is ingrained in me and I can't just wish it away. Yeah. Like I need help. And so it's like the intent for us to be vulnerable, that is a great quality to have. Yeah. But there needed to be follow up of like, maybe you should see a counselor. Yeah. Or maybe like these are ways that we can cope. It's like resources, no one had that. Everything. Yeah. No one had that like training necessarily, but the intent was there. And I respect that. And I respect those people. And they've done great things in the mental health health world for sure.
Of course, yeah. And I think it like you said, the intent was there to create these beautiful moments of connection between us, which was, very much achieved, to be able to hold space for one another at such a young age, to be able to hold the such heavy emotions, adult emotions, honestly, to talk about really heavy shit at a young age, and be able to, as a young person, sit across from you and be like, I hear that, and I'm holding space for you. The way that I felt held emotionally by my peers in any other situation where like you brush that off, because you're just you're like, that's too heavy, like, let's just have fun. But there was just, you said, there wasn't the follow-up, there wasn't, these are some resources, it wasn't necessarily like, how are we gonna do the inner work? It was more like trauma dump and let's move on type of thing. Because it was like, okay, I trauma dumped all these emotions and now they're right here on display. What do I do with them? Oh, I don't know. Figure that out. That's not my problem type of thing. And something else that I really loved was when we would hold space for each other and we would affirm each other and we would, say like, I see you and this is how I see you. And it was interesting to see yourself through other people's lens, which I think is beautiful. But also in that same regard, it can sometimes be hard with the way that they didn't frame it as like, this is how you see yourself and I'm just reminding you. I'm just an outside person reminding you of this is who you really are. It felt a little bit more along the scripted narrative of this is who you should be. And I'm telling you like, oh yeah, you match these traits of who you should be according to the Bible. What about who I am and who I'm showing up? I'm imperfect. So imperfect and flawed. And it was almost like they were trying to not necessarily be like, I'm accepting of these flaws and I know how to continue on with them. But it was like, here's what you need to do to like almost overcome those flaws to become that like ideal person. And I was like, okay, well, the intent was there.
Yes. And it's so interesting because I like look back so differently. And maybe I need to do more work, but I just think like, I think of it so fondly and it actually was a safe place for me. But then I'm like, when you say those things, I'm like, oh, I remember that,
I feel like it's like dual. And then also for me, I was obviously dealing with my own internal stuff. And so I do look at it through those different lenses. I look through it, through queer lenses as like a closeted kid who didn't feel safe to do that and feeling so scared. Like I'm being put in these positions where I need to be vulnerable and I'm so scared what will come out and what will happen. What are the ramifications of if I say it out loud, so I needed to say anything else. Or also the fact that during that time, specifically that summer, I had just found out my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And that summer I had just, recently been experiencing big friendship breakup from childhood. I was experiencing daddy issues, baggage was coming into light. And so that was like a very heavy emotional summer for me. And it was just a lot of things that I was just presented with, and then to be immediately dropped into a space that was being like trauma dump. And I'm like, well, I just found out about this stuff. I have no idea what to say about it. We'll say it anyways. So that's one of the reasons why I look back and being kind of like, I loved that it was a safe space for us to be open and vulnerable and to be held and seen by our peers, our friends. We became fucking best friends that summer. But like also it was just like I wanted it to be also we can hold space for you not being ready to share that yet. And like that's okay too.
I agree. And I think that it is within big like Christian culture to force you to be vulnerable, like forced to share your story. And it's like, who can have the most emotional one? Who can have the most tearjerker one? Let's like play on those emotions. And whether that is said or not said, that doesn't lead with empathy. That actually like forces people to be honest about things that they may not be ready for.
And that causes so much more trauma later on.
Yes, because it's like, how do I know that I can trust you? We haven't built that trust. And that's like a big common line between friendships, right? You build trust and then you start sharing slowly. It doesn't have to be full speed ahead. Here's everything at the table. Will you love me? Like it often felt like that. It's like, okay, here's everything about my heart. Here's everything that's deep in there. Will you accept me? Like that shouldn't be a question with people that you're sharing with. That 100%. Should be I know you and I love you. Please share if you want, but but I'm not going to push that. Like that, I don't know, that respect, feel like it's not there often in Christian cultures.
Yeah. And also going off what you said, like that ideology also just created such a false sense of like safety and a false sense of community, where sometimes you'd be like, something that's so beautiful in one regard can look phony in another because of that like rushed speed run to vulnerability or speed run to connectivity. Whereas if it was just like you said, organic and natural, and it just was a safe space where people just felt called to share whatever was on their heart, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But it was like, no, this is the script and it's your turn.
Yeah.
It's your line. I'm not ready. Oh,
why not?
Figure it out.
Yeah.
We're not going to move on.
Yep.
Or we'll come back to you. That was also one of their favorite lines. Okay, we'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Figure out what truth you're going to drop because we'll come back to you.
Gosh. Going back to like this experience making you more liberal, how do you feel like it's made you more liberal?
For me, I mean, so many reasons. But the biggest thing I think for me leaving was like finally being able to just breathe. And I realized that loving people and just being a good person, regardless of all that political, rhetoric, that Christian rhetoric, it was just like loving people fully and accepting them as they are and me as I am, my full authentic self. It wasn't a sin as the way that they framed it. It was the whole point.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest thing, is I think that leaving taught me to just be myself. And the biggest thing that I carry is you put out what you want to receive. And I feel like that's happened. And honestly, even with our reconnection, I feel like we mirror each other in that way, because it's amazing to think about and reflect on the fact that we did walk some of those paths together. And I think we both had a lot of stunted trauma when we knew each other. We were going through some heavy shit, but we didn't know how to speak about it. So sitting here across from you talking about this shit is almost jarring.
Yeah.
Because I just remember every week we would be across from each other and we would be in these like spaces where like we should have open conversation about real stuff. And don't get me wrong, I loved being able to like see you girls every week. And that was my safe space, honestly, when I felt like I didn't really have one.
Yeah.
But still, like, I was not open and honest and vulnerable. I did not know how to speak for years. I just bottled everything up and I was just there. That's what I say. Like, I was just there.
Yeah.
So genuinely, from like the bottom of my heart, sitting here across from you now, having this conversation is so like 15-year-old me would have never saw that coming.
Yeah.
100%. Like, yeah. So.
Yeah. And like what I'm thinking about is how beautiful of a poet you are. How beautiful of a writer you are.
Thank you.
And that was silenced for so long.
Yeah.
And just to see you thrive in this capacity of the world, your corner of the world, it just makes me so happy that you did find that voice. And that you're like, even this podcast, like you are shining lights on topics where people are not speaking up, and you as a Black woman are speaking your truth, but also letting others speak their truth. Like, that is so beautiful to me.
That means the absolute fucking world to me to hear that, because at the end of the day, that is the whole point. That's the whole goal of this podcast, is to just hold space. And that it just means a lot to hear that, especially someone who's known me through like so many different seasons of life. It really affirms in me the growth that I try to tell myself, like, girl, you've grown. But sometimes, those voices get in your head sometimes, or sometimes you wonder, like, am I performing? Am I blah, blah, blah? But like, to just hear you say that and to reaffirm in me the growth, it does mean a lot. So like, truly thank you for saying that. And I am grateful to hold this space, even in my tiny, corner of the internet, of the world. All of this podcast has been a beautiful outlet for not just me to navigate like my experiences and my growth, but I've loved being able to hold space for other people to like share parts of their stories too.
Yeah.
crying. So I have to talk about this, Megan.
Yeah.
Watching you marry Josiah was such a special moment. Seeing you step into this life that you built with your own hands on your own terms, it was beautiful. I want to know, how does it feel now, looking back at everything that you've overcome, where you are now, your love story, moving from Colorado here, how it could feel both like heartbreak and coming home?
Yeah. I mean, for the longest time, I mean, not even just Josiah, like I had to come to terms with who I am, what I believe, what values do I hold, do I want to be about?
Yeah.
And I feel like Josiah is someone who pursues that of like, you're a strong woman. And I'm going to let you speak up. And he gives me room at the table. And it's like, you are a decision maker too. You are in it together. You know, like we are a team.
Yeah.
And so I feel like having him along the way has been so beautiful. And he has his own journey with faith and stuff. But like to be able to like build that relationship with him and it build on like, now we ask ourselves, what do we want our family to value? Who do we want our kids to be? Because before we had this book, right? This book that would tell us ways we were supposed to be a family, ways we were supposed to lead a family. And like now it's like, what do we want ourselves to be? And like, how do we trust ourselves? And like, I feel like the biggest, now even going back to like how I have grown, I just think for like the past 6 months, I feel like I've really lived in understanding that sometimes what people project is more about them, that I actually, these are the things that I value, right? Like justice, fairness, that I value love. And like, I love to see people as they are. Yeah. And I want to care for people, whether it is people who are oppressed, whether it's raising the voices of people of color, whether it is caring about lower income families. That has made me feel closer to spirituality, is that I see people now and I love them as they are. And that it brings me more joy to like love the people that the church exiles, because those voices need to be heard, you know? And like, I mean, okay, also, this is a whole separate thing, but did you watch the movie Sinners?
Of course I did. Okay. Hello.
I mean, there is a whole conversation that I feel like we can't get to on the Black American and slavery.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that really was a pivotal point for me watching that movie, because it deals a lot with spirituality and church.
Of course.
And like, I think the biggest question I was always lingering in my head, I don't know about you, but I cared a lot about death. Judgment Day. I don't know. We didn't talk about it a lot at our church growing up, but I feel like it was a lot in the ministry of like, when you get to the pearly gates and God shows up, is God going to let you in or not, based on the way that
have you lived the right life to be accepted in?
And after I left the church, it was always like, am I?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I've slowly started to learn about myself, trust myself. And when I watched the movie Sinners, at the end, I'm going to spoil it. Spoiler. At the end, there's this woman who was doing witchcraft, and she is married to one of the twins. Yeah. I forgot which one.
Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
Daddy.
The beautiful man that he is. Yeah. But just like an outsider in that historical time doing witchcraft, right? The church would say that that's the devil. Michael B. Jordan's character, one of the twins, both of them, you know, are like sneaking money behind the table, you know, and like just this whole story comes and he slowly is starting to die and sees this picture of the woman who was doing witchcraft and their baby. And it's like, damn. Yeah. We thought these white people were the ones that, quote unquote, were going to go to heaven. Yeah. And yet it is this woman, a Black woman, breastfeeding her baby. Yeah. And it's like, and we thought that someone would point the finger at the church and say that is not someone who's going to go to heaven. Exactly. You know? Yeah. And so I just think the big thing that I took away, and I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts too, is like, what if at the end of the day, I die and I go to the gates and like God asked me if I'm a good and faithful servant, and I say yes, because I loved the people that were oppressed. I cared about the single mom on food stamps. I showed up for people. I loved people well. And I can be okay with that at the end of the day. I can sleep good because I know that. And so I don't know. I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts, but it's just crazy because that question ate me up alive so much. And now I am confident that every day I'm going to choose, am I living out of my values? Am I loving people well? Am I allowing space for people of all varieties? Then I can say yes, you know?
I definitely agree. And for me, like, honestly, the idea of heaven would send me into so many spirals and existential crises because, of course, I'm battling like queerness where someone is telling me being gay, like, you're gonna go to hell, you're not going to heaven. And having those thoughts, even from a young age, being told if I live this life, if I choose this life, I will not go to heaven, even though you're told like he died for your sins, but this is the biggest sin that's not gonna allow you into heaven. And then also like your idea of heaven, is that a place I want to be? Who's gonna be there? Is it going to be worse than this place? Like so many things I would just spiral about. And the biggest like thing that would send me into like a panic attack was the idea of my mom who passed away and hoping that, you know, she was in a better place. Cause I'm like, well, she's not here, so she's in a better place. But wondering like, what is that place? You know, the people that I've lost in my life, like, are they all somewhere better and are they together? And will I see them again one day? What is after this? You know, what comes next? And I would just spiral and spiral about that. But I really just thought at the end of the day, like, we all have the same heart. Those that I love, I know that we have the same heart and I know that we'll find each other again. If it's not on this earth or whatever comes next, because I don't know what heaven is. I don't know what is after this, the afterlife, anything, another life, you know. I just know that our hearts will find each other again. I know I'll see my mother again one day. But when I think about like the idealistic Christian heaven, judgment day, God saying yes or no, you pass or you're, you know, exiled to hell, which one? At the end of the day, like, I don't want to go to their version of heaven because that seems scarier than here. Like, you know, and this is a scary fucking place. At the end of the day, I just want to be somewhere where all I feel is what I feel on my best day. You know, the love and the pure intention and the hope, you know, that there's something better out there. That's what I have to carry with myself. And like you, holding space for those who need it and just loving each other unconditionally, because that, at the end of the day, is what it's all about. That's the whole fucking point. And so like you, if I just do that, if I just choose to love every day, if I choose to be my best self every day, my most authentic self, then I know whatever comes after this is gonna be a great fucking story, you know? I just think that there is just something so powerful about loving out loud, loving those who need it, holding space for each other, the real community, and being taught that everything about love and even desire and everything that we were taught was dirty or wrong. And after unpacking that and navigating those emotions, I think seeing you and I both embracing that and embracing our whole self, it's so inspiring. So I just know that whatever comes after this life, we got it.
Yeah, we do.
You know, like it's gonna be for the plot.
And like, sorry, I know we're like over time, and we're always told to not care about this life because there's something better out there. You're gonna die and get to heaven, and that's what we were destined on this earth to do. And it's like, what if actually it's important to care about humanity?
There we go.
What if it's actually important that we live our best days here on earth, and that it is, what a joy that I'm living my best days, that I'm married to Josiah, that I am paving a way within my life for myself. And what if it's okay? That's what matters.
I don't like this narrative of caring about people being that makes you like an extremist or, you know, all that's like, at the end of the day, I'm just caring about somebody. I just want, like, it's a fucking scary world we live in, man, you know? And if we could just love each other if we could just show each other kindness, oh, the places we could go.
Yeah.
You know, the world we could live in. We could craft something beautiful, more beautiful than what we've got. And we could craft something a lot closer to what I hope comes after this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think it is so, like, you learn so much from people that are different from you.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be about that, experiencing what other people go through, being curious, asking questions.
Yeah.
And it is important to sit across the table and say, I've never been through that. And that is okay because I want your voice to be heard.
100%. And that is like a great point to carry, especially whenever it's like we're carrying these lessons that we've learned and these new values and traits that we learned from that religious trauma that we still carry. You know, we're still unlearning a bunch of shit every day. I think the biggest lesson for me is walking forward through all of that, through the shame, through the religious trauma, through the compet, and just knowing that this idea of my body and my queerness and my voice aren't things that I have to apologize for.
100%.
You know, and I'm just showing up. I'm not afraid to say that I take up space in the world anymore, because for so long I felt like the church was trying to shrink me. And I think at the end of the day, advocating for myself, but also the child that I was who experienced all of that, you know, RT, I think we're all just learning to forgive the kids that we were and the ones that tried to be perfect because we thought that love had conditions. You know? Any closing takeaways for you?
I mean, I think it is so beautiful how far we've come.
Oh, yeah.
And how much in different ways, like, we're people to show up for people.
Oh, for sure.
And like, I am just so thankful. And I hope that this podcast continues to cultivate conversation around this topic, because so many voices, especially queer voices, especially individuals hiding a secret, like sin, whatever, those people feel silenced.
Yeah.
And if my words could even just be remotely a connection to someone, this is worth it. And even not, I showed up for myself and I spoke my truth, and I am honest about what I've gone through, but also I've learned so much. And it is not about the people I talked about, but it's more about I am growing into who I'm becoming, and that is worth it.
Oh, 100%. I think that's beautiful. And I think that you had a beautiful journey and you will continue to. And I love following your growth and your story and the way that you're navigating through life. I love seeing you, you know, using your voice to speak up about important things, especially because you have the intersectionality of your learned RT lessons you've learned from all of that and moving into this space, but also your role in academia and education. It's a big topic right now. And you're using your voice for the people who can't speak. And that's awesome. And I think it's beautiful. And I'm really proud of you for using your voice. And I love watching and keeping up with what you have to say. So if any listeners want to keep up with you, where can they find you?
Obviously I am going to start an Instagram for my dog. So we'll keep you updated on that.
For sure, right.
But my Instagram is my last name, Neumann. It's my new last name, Neumann. It is it is NEUMANN_Megan, MEGAN. So you can follow me. I'd love to cultivate conversation in my DMs. So
for sure. Honestly, Megan, thank you so much for coming on and for just being raw and real with me. I think we've definitely come a long way from the church pews, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
I just want to say to anyone who's listening, who grew up in the church, that made you feel like you had to shrink yourself, this right here is your permission slip to take up space, to laugh, to love, to question, and to rebuild. You are allowed to write a new story. You are allowed to burn the old script and to start again. Take what resonates, leave the rest. I want you to stay bold, stay soft, and keep stirring the plot. But for now, listeners, it is time to wrap up this episode. If you're enjoying my podcast, don't forget to rate it 5 stars, because it not only lets me know that you enjoy listening, but it also helps my podcast get boosted so that I can reach a wider audience. Follow at Stirring the Plot Pod on all social media platforms to stay up to date and never miss an episode. If you'd like to connect with me, I am just at Dayna J Francois on all social media platforms. I will have everything linked in the show notes. And with that being said, if you liked listening, make sure that you subscribe to my podcast and tune in weekly, because I'm gay, I'm hot, and if there's one thing about me, I'm gonna stir the plot. Period.
Yeah.